Hey Max,
How's it going?
can you hear me there?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You?
Good. That's a relief. Yeah. Uh, I'm not too bad. How are you doing?
Good, and you?
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to this actually. Yeah, I'm excited to see your magic.
Well, let's see. Let's see if it's worth it.
I'm
Hello,
sure it will
Mike.
be. Hi, Mark.
All right, how are we getting on?
Good, and
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, pretty good. It's a bit hot. We've got 30 degrees on the temperature.
Oh, wow, that's high.
Yeah. For England, that's where I am. Yeah, unheard of. I don't know. You know, it's yeah, it's a bit of a
Wow.
it's a bit of a hot one today.
Well, I'm in a place near the capital of Colombia, Bogota,
Wow.
and it's normal here to be around 30 degrees. Today
Right.
it's a bit cold. We are 25 degrees, but normally it's 30 degrees. But if you tell me that over there is 30 degrees, well, there's something strange over there.
Yeah, we're used to about 10, 12 degrees. That's about, you know, that's normal.
Or it's
Yeah.
cool.
So, I think it could be worse. So we can't really complain.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Hi. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, so you're one of the lucky ones to have a hay.
I
A
know.
hay. I mean,
I'm honoured.
they're gold dust, aren't they?
I only
The
signed
hay.
up 3 days ago, and I thought there'd be a huge queue, but maybe I just got lucky in a batch of invites or something. But
Yeah,
I've not had a chance to test it yet, so I don't know what it's like. But there's a lot of hype.
there is. Yeah, big time. Wait, have you got your hands on one, Felipe? One of those hay email invites yet?
Sorry, I think I'm losing you guys. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. We were talking about it on the stand-up on Monday. And Mark, you're not convinced, are you, with hay yet?
Well, yeah, it's yet to sort of prove itself. I'm sure it'll be popular with some people. I listened to the Visual Dev podcast this morning, and Ben Parker, one of the hosts there, was raving about it. He was convinced. He paid for a year, and he was convinced it was a replacement for all his services, and he was redirecting everything to it. His main feature that he was happy with was the ability to completely block someone. So you can have somebody send you an email, and then you thumbs up or thumbs down, and then you'll never hear from them again if you don't.
It's blocked by default. By default, everyone's blocked, and you just allow. So you build up your allow list. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
There's lots of good features on there, and there's lots of room for email to improve. So hopefully, but you never know with these things. They have a good hype train behind them, and until you get your hands on it, but be interesting to see.
Yeah.
You're talking about buy.fyi, the email service.
Hey.com.
Hey.com? I haven't heard about that.
I'm surprised, Felipe. They've been all over Twitter. It's been a massive marketing campaign.
No. Okay, no, I was talking about this one, but I thought it was called buy.fyi, and they both redirect to the same webpage. Oh,
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey.com is the same as buy.fyi. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Got you. We're just can you hear me better, Felipe, and everyone else? Is that all good?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm all good. I just switched
Great.
connections.
Awesome. Cool. We'll wait a few more minutes, but looks like there's a good batch of us, which is always good. Hi, Kenneth. How's it going?
Yo, what's going on, Max?
Yeah, good to see you again.
Thank you. You too. Sorry, I missed a couple of them. I've been a little swamped, but thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no worries. I'll kick things off soonish, but just wait a few more minutes, I think. In the meantime, Felipe, do you maybe want to give a quick
hello?
Just sort of introduction to you and what you what you get up to.
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to start right now, or should we wait for more people to join, or in the meantime?
Maybe an informal introduction, and then maybe like
Okay.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So, hello guys, nice to meet you all, and I'm very glad to be here. I'm Felipe. Some people call me Felipe or Pipe or Pipe. It doesn't matter. Like you'll find me in many ways in social media. I'm the founder of Hello Guru. We are an online university teaching people how to build software by using no-code tools. And I've been working full-time on this since August last year. So it's almost around 10 months working on this venture. And it's been like almost 4 or 5 years that I've been working with no-code tools without knowing that they were no-code tools by that time. And I don't remember how we met with Max. I think it was through Twitter or something, maybe. And he invited me to be here and hopefully give you guys some valuable information or anything.
That's great to just have a bit of context. And what you obviously do and stuff. I think I reckon we should get cracking, and people will join along the way. I think a few more will come, but they're probably going to be running a bit late. So I reckon we should kick this thing off and sort of go into it. I'll give a quick intro into the format. So Felipe is just given an intro, but happy for you to expand on what Hello Guru is. So please feel free to do that. But after that, Felipe will be building a restaurant directory in Bubble, if I'm correct, and which will allow people to donate money to these local restaurants, and that will be hopefully sort of made within 30 minutes. And after that, we'll just open it up for questions and see what things you want to ask Felipe on Bubble, and I guess no code in general, if you're up for that as well. So quick run through of the format, and I'll pass it over to Felipe to get going.
Absolutely. Do you want me to dig down on Hello Guru right now, or should we do that after and just go directly to building?
Whatever you prefer.
Let's finish up with Hello Guru, and then we just go straight to building up stuff. As I told you, we are a fully online school where our mission is to empower more people to be able to build software by using no-code tools. We have a strong presence in Latin America. That is a place, and Spanish-speaking countries, that is a place where the no-code movement is still in a very, very early stage. But however, we have customers all around the world and students all around the world. And we'll like 10 months from now, from August last year, we've been working a lot on understanding what's the best way in which we can teach people how to use no-code tools. Like there's a bunch of information out there. Like you can find things on YouTube, you can find things on Vimeo, on blog posts, on Twitter. Like there's a bunch of information all over there. And what we're trying to do is to give it its structure, give a structure similar to what you guys are doing in 100 Days of No Code. Like having a clear path on how I really understand how to build software by using these tools, and not just like a bunch of random like videos jumping everywhere on how to build stuff. So that's like what we are after and what we are seeking. And throughout this showcase and this building that I'm going to do like in a couple of minutes, You guys are going to see kind of the methodology that we use inside Hello Guru for teaching these kind of tools. What we like to do is to have an approach like a recipe-like approach. Like if you are building a recipe, like cooking some spaghettis, like, it's better to have like a step 1, 2, 3, like pour pasta, add salt, add pepper, instead of a whole video in which you maybe get lost and you have to rewind and go forward and like start like jumping back and forth. So we like to use this way of teaching, and our students have so far they have found it very easily and useful to learn from it. So that's us. We are right now. Hello Guru is only teaching and certifying people on Bubble. We have a Bubble course that shows you from scratch how to build a complete Twitter replica. And throughout all that process, you will learn how to use all the features that Bubble has. So that's it. We are aiming to have a lot more courses right now on not only on web development, but also on mobile app development. So we're working on Adalo, we're working on DraftBeat, we're also working on Webflow. Regarding bot development and AI and machine learning, we're also developing courses on that, because there's a bunch of tools out there using, of course, no code that can let us build all these things. So I think that's it. I don't know if maybe I'm missing something, Max, that you would like me to tell the guys, but.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, that's great. I'm just about to chuck in to the chat the 50% off code for Hello Guru's Bubble course. So you can get your hands on that, and that will give you a deep dive into learning like the fundamentals of Bubble through making Twitter. So yeah, highly recommend that from doing it myself. And yeah, I'll just put that in the chat now, but yeah, don't mind me, you go straight ahead, Felipe, and yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for that heads up. So well, let me share my screen. Please let me know when you see it. So you see me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Here's the hey.com and the
yeah.
by the yeah. Well, so what I'm going to build today is an online directory where restaurants can post their information and their buy me a coffee link, so that people can donate money to them due to this pandemic thing and all the restaurants that are being closing down. And I believe you've seen a bunch of these kind of pages out there where people can donate to restaurants and help them save their businesses through these tough times. So we're building this from scratch using Bubble. Hopefully, as Max said, it'll take us around 30 minutes, if not less. And please feel free. I really don't know how the methodology usually works. If you leave like the question for the end, or you like to just keep the conversation going, and if anyone has questions, they just ask.
Yeah, sure. If anyone has any questions, please like jump in. And we have time at the end. If you have any questions after, yeah, Felipe's built the directory. But yeah, feel free to jump in anytime.
Absolutely. Perfect. So whenever I'm starting to build on Bubble, whatever idea comes through, me and my team, we usually divide it into 3 phases. It's the planning phase, the building phase, and the testing phase. I think that they are all self-explanatory. We're going to jump directly into them. So having this idea in mind, in where we want to build a web page where restaurants can like upload their information, and users can then go to their links and donate money. So we're going to jump into the planning phase. So in the planning phase, we usually take into account 2 things: the what and the how. what are we going to build and how we're going to build it. What is basically what I just told you guys, and how are like the specifics on what are the steps I should take in order to build that product. Regarding the what, well, it's just again me telling you the same story 5 minutes ago. It's a website directory where restaurants can upload and edit their information, and customers can make donations using buymeacoffee.com. So this is like we're going to, at the end, we're going to have a kind of a template that can work not only for Buy Me a Coffee, but you can dig down and maybe accept payments through Stripe or through other payment processors. But this like gives an idea on all the capabilities of Bubble in a quick manner. So regarding the how, and this is brought to you by Hello Guru in terms that we like to decompose all the building process in steps. As I told you before, it's kind of we want to replicate a recipe book, so it's easy for everyone to follow up, and it's also easy to understand what we're doing. So we're going to divide all this building process into 5 steps. The first one will be building a static landing page. So it's basically the page where people just arrive and see all the information. Then we're going to be building the data structure. It's all the data behind the website regarding the information of the restaurants, information of users, customers, etc. Then we'll be building a repeating group to showcase restaurants. So in our landing page, we have to find a way in which we can show all the menu, all the options that we have of all the restaurants that can be supported through this web page. Then we're going to be adding a sign up and login functionality. This, of course, to make the restaurants being able to log in and update their information and like be part of the showcase. And finally, the build the restaurant dashboard that is, in few words, is another page where the restaurant can change their name, that they can change their Buy Me a Coffee URL, and well, basically change their information. So being said that, let's just jump into the building process. So we're going to go to the first step. It's build the static landing page. So I'm going to do everything absolutely from scratch, just to keep on this even for dummies. Bubble has a problem in this first landing page, and is that when you have a lot of apps built, it takes a long time to load. So let's just hit for a new app. We'll call it 100 Days of No Code Restaurants. We're going to start from scratch, create a new app. The first loading takes time. Here is like the boilerplate that Bubble showcases for new apps. We're going just to start with a blank page. Let's close this assistant, and let's just dig into remember building the static landing page. So this is a page where people will arrive, understand throughout the copies what the site is for, and be able to do certain stuff. So let's just begin with a cool copy. We can say something like saving restaurants. We can, of course, use this styling. I'm going throughout this process, I'm going to throw kind of little tips that I've been like learning throughout my learning curve using Bubble, and is using these styles in here gives a lot of performance benefits to your web page in terms of loading speed, due to the fact that well, the website doesn't have to go through each element and understand what style to apply, but it's just like you have these predetermined styles beneath. So it's a good practice to use these styles. So let's continue saving restaurants without code. Let's add another subheader that we can tell it, these are the restaurants that we're currently supporting. And what I am imagining in my head is that beneath this, we are going to have the list of all the restaurants that we're going to showcase. Here goes another. Try always to use groups to group all your content. This gives you multiple benefits. One of them is that it's easier to move around stuff. So if I want to build all these things, we know that these two elements are part of a whole. So we can just build a group around this, and this gives us first the flexibility of moving things around. And the most important thing regarding these groups is that when you go into responsive things, like you're making your website responsive, and you want it to look nice in any phone, using groups can give you a lot of flexibility on this. For example, let's just preview how this looks. For example, having a group that determines the max width of how this element is going to work gives you control of having everything like in specified margins. So whenever you go into a website, you will always see that all the information is within certain margins. This is super important in any kind of website, just to it looks very appealing and professional to have everything inside some margins. So here I'm going to show you like two important things. What happens if I just group these elements and see how they look? You can see that the group is expanding throughout all my website, all my screen width. So this is I'm using a 17 inches screen, so it's kind of big, and you can see that the text goes all the way into almost the border. Sometimes this is we want this, sometimes we don't want this. We want it to be like strained into some specific margins, and whenever you want that, we through the use of groups, you have the possibility of telling this guy to apply a maximum width when the page is stretched. So when you do this, I'm telling him, okay, the maximum width that this group can stretch in width will be the 100% of it. So if I return here and just preview how this looks, we can see that the margins have like literally became what I'm seeing right here. So no matter how big or how small my screen is, these margins are going to be maintained all the time. Okay, so let me see what else we need here. We also, well, any landing page is composed of a header, of a good copy, a subheader, CTAs, call to actions to whatever we want the user to do, a footer. Those are like the basic elements. So let's just add that for the sake of having like a professional looking website. This is a footer that comes as a reusable element in Bubble. It comes predefined. We can afterwards like do whatever we want with it. And it's a long page. Like it has like the specific links pointing to the Bubble manual and things like that, but we can change that whenever you want. Okay, so just let's take a look on how this looks right now. So, okay, cool, saving restaurants without code. As you can see here, there's a margin in the footer. There's a different margin here than here. Sometimes we want this, sometimes we don't. Let's say for the sake of simplicity that here we don't care if the margins are different in the footer and the content of the website. It really depends on the final design. Okay, so having this, we can say that we have finished the static landing page. Well, let's just also add header. We're going to be using this afterwards. This is our header. Let's just make a quick edit here because we are not Bubble. We are what we call it is save restaurants without code. So let's just call it here. This is going to be our fancy logo. We can center it vertically, and there it goes. We don't need this. We don't have any bubble form or facts, and that's it. Afterwards, we're going to be jumping into the sign up and logging. So let's see what we have so far. Okay, cool. So with this, we can say that we have our landing page, like minimal landing page. We're still missing the list of all that we're going to be supporting, but we'll be doing that in a further step. So being done that, we're going to jump directly into building the data structure of our web app. Let's go in here. Bubble has, okay, here. So these are like the main parts of of Bubble, like the main elements of Bubble. Here is where we design the website. Here is where we set up the workflows. These workflows are, for example, if I push a button, I want that button to redirect me to a certain website, or I want that whenever this website is loaded, something happens. So it's more like the flows that happen behind scenes. Data is where we're going to be saving all the information that is going to be used throughout the website. So this includes the users that signed up, the restaurant's information, etc. Here we have styles, plugins, settings, and logs. We're not going to go deep dive into this because we don't have that much time and we don't need this for this exercise. So let's remember, we're going to build our data structure. So we're going to see what happens in here. This is where we are going to save all our data. Bubble uses, they call them types of data. So we have user types. We can build whatever type we want. This is something like a big table. If we traduce this in an Excel-like form, this will be like a tab in an Excel or in an Airtable. Or if you know about databases, this is just like one table in a database that can have a lot of information inside. For example, this user data type has inside an email, a modification date, a creation date, and we can add a lot of other fields. In this case, we need specifically 3 fields. We need the restaurant name. Try always to be very, very clear with these names, like for them to be self-explanatory, because afterwards you will be like referencing them in a lot of steps, and it's going to be very useful to have self-explanatory names. So we need restaurant name. We need a restaurant logo so that people can recognize it. This is going to be a file. Sorry if I skip this. This is a place where you specify what type of data it's going to be living inside this field. So I don't know if you saw, I said that the restaurant name is going to be a text, restaurant logo is going to be a file, and finally we need the buy me a coffee URL. This is going to be also a text. So with this, we can say that we have all the fields that we need in order for our app to work correctly. Being said that, we have finished like building the data structure that we need. It's super simple right now, but basically this is the same idea if it's 1 table or 10 tables. It doesn't matter how complex it can become. It's the same for whatever project you're working on. So then we're going to build a repeating group to showcase our restaurants. So what is a repeating group? You heard me talking about this kind of groups. This is a normal group. Actually, Bubble has different types of groups. It has the normal group that is the one that we used here. They have repeating groups, they have floating groups, and then have group focus. We're going to dig down into repeating groups right now. What a repeating group does is that it takes, let's say, many rows of information and showcases them inside this group, no matter how big or small the information is. So it's kind of a dynamic group. You don't have to tell it, okay, you have to show 4 or 5 or 6 data points, but I'm going to build a logic in which whatever number of data comes in, you are going to be able to showcase it. So let's go and create our repeating group. Our repeating group per default is shown in a 4-row basis. However, we can set up this however we like. We're going to do this in a moment. The first thing that is super important in a repeating group is to determine what type of content I'm going to show in here. This specifically refers to what kind of data is going to be shown inside this group. In this case, we know that we are going to use our user data type. That is where we have the restaurant name, the restaurant logo, and the URL. And this is going to help us build the site. So we're going to say we need a type of content user. And here we're going to tell him, you have to tell him it's type of, you have to tell Bubble, it's a type of content user and how I'm going to fetch this information. You can fetch it through APIs, you can fetch it directly in Bubble's databases. There's a lot of ways in which you can fetch the information. In this case, we're going to be calling the Bubble's database where our information is going to be saved. So we're going to tell him, okay, you have to search for users. A type is user. This is for default. If we needed to add any constraint, we can add it here, but for now, we want all the restaurants to be shown. For example, if afterwards we have an option where we want some restaurants to be shown and some to be hidden, we can add like a data field that is basically a yes or no to be shown. And here you can tell him, okay, if the field hidden is true, bring it. If it's no, don't bring it. But for now, for the sake of simplicity, we're going to just bring all the users in here. Okay, now we need to also set up how information is going to be displayed. We want it to be we want to have a kind of a grid-like form in here to show all the restaurants. So we can tell this guy to be just one row. This row is going to be repeated the times, whatever times it needs to be repeated according to the information it brings. And let's tell him to do 4 columns. Inside each of these square box, we can start to showcasing our restaurants. How? So I'm going to build the logic for just how I want one of these boxes to be shown, and then all the other boxes are going to be replicated in the same manner. So for example, I want, first of all, here to be shown the restaurant name. In here, we can insert a dynamic data. This is going to fetch the information in the database, and that's going to bring us the restaurants, the different restaurants name. So let's just call it is a dynamic data. We're going to tell him it's the current users restaurant name. Okay, so we have this. We also want to bring the logo. So that logo is going to be an image element. We're going to bring an image element that has also a dynamic data that is going to be current sales users. And here we can find the logo. Here I am showing all the fields that are inside the users data type. So just to make a quick recall, inside my users data type, I have the following fields: buy me a coffee URL, restaurant logo, restaurant name, email, modified date, create date. I can access all those informations, all those data points inside here. So you can see buy me a coffee URL, restaurant logo, restaurant name, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to bring here the restaurant logo. And then we're going to add, I'm going to center this. We're going to add a button that is going to redirect me to the buy me a coffee URL of this specific restaurant. So let's call this donate now. And this button, when pressed, has to redirect me to the buy me a coffee URL of these restaurants that I'm currently seeing. I'm going to center this as well. And I'm going to temporarily remove this style in here just to center it so that this text is centered. And let's see how this looks in our website. We're not going to see anything due to the fact that there's no data inside our database, right? However, what happens when I insert a data? So I'm going to fill up my data type with some information, like real information. I'm going to go to app data. I'm going to select the users type. Here we can see all the information of all the restaurants that we have. We're going to make a new entry. And we're going to say that the URL of the Buy Me a Coffee URL will be, let's just redirect it to Google right now. Restaurant logo, we're going to upload a restaurant logo in here. So it's Hello Guru. The restaurant name will be Hello Guru's Restaurant. And that's it. We're going to leave the email blank for now. You're going to understand later why. Oops, I do need an email, so don't hear me. Logo, restaurant name, Logos, restaurant, and I'm going to add some email here. Okay, so what I just did was to add and start filling the database of my users in here. If everything is connected correctly, this repeating group is going to fetch the information in this database and it's going to start showing it throughout the website. So let's just go in here and without doing even reload, it's appearing here right now. So if I had 2 or 3 or 4, the repeating group is going to start putting all the buttons in here. And that way we're going to be able to showcase all the restaurants that we want. I just remember something that I missed, and is that whenever I told you that whenever you click on the Donate Now button, you should be redirected to the URL that the restaurant has linked. So in order for this to work, we need to use the workflows. I just told you guys that workflows work for building these flows in a this then that manner. So if this happens, then do that. In this case, we're going to tell him, hey, whenever I press the Donate Now button, I want you to redirect me to the current restaurant's URL. How do we do this? Very simple. We just go to the button, tell him start edit workflow, and here we can edit all the actions. There's a bunch of actions that we can do with this button. In this case, we want it to redirect us to an external website. So we will tell him, okay, I want you to open an external website, and this website will be a dynamic URL that it will be the current users Buy Me a Coffee URL. Very similar to what we did in the repeating group a couple of minutes ago. So this means that, I'm going to refresh. This means that whenever I press the Donate Now button, I should be redirected to, well, I think it's google.com because I put google.com. Perfect. Another thing, remember the margins that I was speaking of at the beginning? Here we have like a disaster on margins, and it's because this repeating group has, we didn't build a group for this repeating group to like contain everything. How do we fix this? Well, we just add a group, just, oh, sorry, I'm going to show that again. I'm going to group these elements in a group. That way I have a group in here now. It's kind of it's kind of difficult to see it at the beginning because it has the same size, but it's there. And we're going to tell this, oops, I'm going to tell this repeating group to apply a max width when the page is stretched. So this way it's going to have the same margins as this. We have here a little padding, 25 pixel padding. We're going to do that as well with our repeating group so that it keeps 22, it keeps like the same proportions over there. And I'm going to center everything again in this way. So if I reload this page, I should have everything looking nice, perfect. So let's go back to our steps. We just built a repeating group to showcase restaurants, cool. However, the only way in which I can populate this information is by entering manually the data inside the database. We don't want that. We want that whenever a restaurant signs up, that restaurant inserts its own information, its own URL, its own logo, and its own name. So that's what will bring us to the fourth step. Add sign up and login functionality with our new fields. What does this mean? As a default, this header has the sign up or login button. If you want to see what happens when we click that button, we just have to go to this button and go to see the workflow that lives behind it. So whenever the button sign up or login is clicked, this is going to happen. This guy is going to show the sign up and login pop-up A. This means that there's a pop-up that is going to show up whenever I press it. Let's see if this works. If I press the button, I have this form that is going to let me sign up or log in any user. However, if I am signing up, I am only saving in here the email and password information of the customer. We also need to add the restaurant name, the logo, and the buy me a coffee URL, right? So we need to add those. How do we do this? Okay, this guy is telling us that this form is living in the pop-up A. So let's go in here and see where is our pop-up A. All these kind of groups that are all these groups that kind of live inside this element string. We can access them here. Here is the sign up and login pop-up A, and when we press it, we can see the form in here. So we now want to edit this guy. So we can edit this element, and what we want to do is to add all the data fields that we need. So I'm going just to put this beneath here, and I'm going to copy this input, It's kind of, I need 3 inputs. I need the restaurant name, I need the buy me a coffee URL, and I need the logo. Okay, I need the logo. The logo is not going to be an input field. It's not something that I have to write, but it's something that I have to upload. So I'm going to upload here a file using a file uploaded element. Let's set up this. This is not going to be email. This is going to be restaurant name. Here goes another tip. Whenever you create any type of element, even if it's in Webflow, in Bubble, in whatever platform no-code tool you're using, try always to use self-explanatory names for whatever element you are using. It's going to save you a lot of time afterwards where you have super complex workflows and you need to find specific elements. So let's call this the input restaurant name. And we're going to call this is the email. This will be the buy me a coffee URL. So it input buy me a coffee URL, and here is to click to upload your logo, file uploader, restaurant logo. Cool. So what do we need this to do? Whenever I am a new user and I click on sign up, I need to sign up this user and add all this information to that user. How do we do this? Again, when I go to the button sign up and I go to the workflow, I can see that whenever that button is pressed, these are the flows and the steps that are going to happen. First, the user is going to be signed up. How? It's going to use the email that is provided in the input and the password that is provided in the input. It's also, here we have the option of requiring a password confirmation. That is the other password input that we have in there. And afterwards, this guys, the pop-up is going to hide. That's the only workflow that is working right now. What do we need to do? We need to also add the other fields that that our restaurants are filling up. So we need here So here in change another field, you can add all the other information that you want to save from the user. So in this case, we want to also add the restaurant name is going to be equal to the input restaurant name. Remember that we just called the input restaurant name. This input restaurant name is the one that we have in here. So whatever the user inserts in here is going to go through the workflow and be saved into the database in the field restaurant name. We can do the same with the other fields. So buy me a coffee URL will be the input buy me a coffee URL value, the value that is in here. And then we have the restaurant logo is going to be whatever we put in the file uploaded restaurant logo. Cool. So this means that if we did everything correctly, whenever I sign up in here, a new entry in our database should appear, and as well, a new restaurant should appear in our static landing page, or not so static anymore. So let's refresh this and see if it works correctly. Okay, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to sign up with a different email, with a random password, restaurant name. So let's call this 100 Days of No Code Restaurant. The buy me a coffee URL, let's now redirect this to Twitter. It can be any URL. And I'm going to upload the logo. So I have here my 100 Days of No Code logo. Perfect. And I should sign up here. If I did everything correctly, oops, here I'm having an error because of this. I'm sorry, I skipped this. All the inputs have a content format that they are expecting. So as I copied the input from email, this guy is expecting an input that is in an email-like form. So I can tell him, hey, this is a text, and this is also a text. So this guy can expect any type of text to be put inside. So let's do this again. Sign up. Password, restaurant name, 100 Days of No Code Restaurant. Buy me a coffee URL is going to be Twitter. And the logo is this one. So if I did everything right, what should happen now is that if I go here into data and refresh my data, whoop, nothing happened. I don't know what happened. Ah, here it goes, lag. So I just signed up, and as I entered a new information in here in my database throughout the sign up, you see, I have here all the information that I just wrote. I'm going to be populating all this information right in here. So this way you can sign up users and let them fill out information in the database. With this, we will be finishing our fourth point, the add sign up login functionality, and then we're just left with build a restaurant dashboard, in which the restaurants can edit the information that is shown in here, right? Let's just try this out. If I click on donate now for 100 days of no code, I should be redirected to Twitter. Okay, everything's fine. Let's go back in here and build out the dashboard for the restaurant. This would be, so in here we have all the pages that our web app has. Right now it's only index. It has a reset password that is for default, and the 404 that comes also for default. We're going to add a new page. This is going to be the restaurant dashboard. We're going to create it from scratch. We're going to bring the header element again. So it's here, we have to, this is a little bit wider. And okay, let's just preview this to see how it looks. This guy is not going full width due to the fact that this website is born with make this element fixed width option. Every new page comes with this default. You can just check it out. And if you reload, the thing will expand to all the width of the screen. So what we want in here is that the information of the current user that is logged in to be shown, and then that the user can edit the information from there, right? So we're going to use this to do this by showing a bunch of inputs that are going to be the ones that show the information of the restaurant. So let's just add a little text here, a description text that is going to be restaurant name. So here goes the restaurant name. Here, this is an input. If I just preview this, you can see that it's an input where you can basically input information, whatever you want. Oh, you see, I have my margins like all messed up. We can fix this by grouping everything in a group. I'm going to group this like this. Also, I'm going to have the same width in all my elements. And that way we can sorry, apply a max width. I forgot that. That way we can have everything nicely aligned. Perfect. In here, I want my restaurant name to appear, right? Not only an empty input value. I can tell Bubble to have an initial content that can be the current user's restaurant name. That way, if I am logged in, Bubble is going to check out what's the current user's restaurant name, and it's going to display it in here. We can do the same for the other fields. So I'm just going to copy and paste this for the restaurant buy me a coffee URL. And here, instead of showing the restaurant name, I'm going to show the buy me a coffee URL. And finally, I am going to show my logo. However, this is not a text input. It's going to be a file that I'm going to be shown. So I'm going to put a file uploaded in here. And here I am going to say that it's a dynamic link that is going to be always in there. That is going to be the same as the other ones. Current users, restaurant logo. So if I refresh this, I should be seeing all the information of my restaurant. Restaurant name, 100 Days of No Code, my URL, and my buy me a coffee. And this is restaurant logo. and my restaurant logo. Cool. Right now, we can't edit this information, like the user couldn't edit this information because we hadn't made a workflow for this to happen. I'm going to separate this a little bit. And we're going right now to build a save button so that whenever someone presses it and changes the information in the inputs, the data of that user is going to be changed. So we're going to call this button save now. Let's just see how it looks. If I click on save now, it's not going to do anything right now. However, and still I can edit here, but nothing is going to happen right now because I haven't built a workflow around this. So let's do it. As I told you before, I click on it, start or edit a workflow. Here I'm in the workflow section of Bubble, and I'm going to tell him, okay, whenever the button save now is clicked, I want you to change the information in the database. For that, we're going to change the information of the current user. This can be done in the section account and go to make changes to the current user. Okay, what changes do I want to make to the current user? Okay, let's change one field. I want to change the buy me a coffee URL with the input. Oh, you see here, the only inputs is input A, input B. I don't know which input is the restaurant name or the coffee URL. So for fixing that, it's always important to name correctly the input. So here I have input restaurant name, and here I have input buy me a coffee. And here I have file uploader logo. Okay, so if I go back to here, the buy me a coffee URL is going to be the input buy me a coffee value. I also want him to change the logo to be the one in my file uploader logo, the value. And then I have here the restaurant name is going to be the input restaurant name value. I want him to change the information inside the data. So let's see what happens. Right now, my data looks like this. The restaurant, 100 Days of No Code restaurant looks like this with this email. This is the buy me a coffee URL, the restaurant logo, and the restaurant name. We're going to change it to 100. Let's call it something else. I don't know. Let's call it Max's restaurant. The URL is going to be now Facebook. And let's change the logo to, again, the Hello Guru logo. If I click on save now, what should have happened is that if I refresh this data in here, the restaurant name, the logo, and the buy me a coffee URL should have changed. Let's refresh. And as you can see, now it's called Max Restaurant, Facebook, and the restaurant logo. If we go to the index of our site and hit on preview, we should also see the changes in there as well, because everything is fixed to the, let's refresh. Everything is linked to the database. So here we have Max Restaurant, and we have Hello Guru's Restaurant. And if I click on donate now, I should go to facebook.com, and it's working right now. One last thing is that if some user gets, for whatever reason, to find the URL that redirects the URL for editing the restaurant, but they are not logged in, we should like push them out, like sign them out, and don't let them to fix information and to change information in here because they haven't logged in. You can also do this as a workflow in our page restaurant dashboard. This is I want to show you guys this so that you can see like the functionalities and how the workflow elements can help us achieve things. So I'm going to tell him, okay, whenever this page is loaded, and here are the conditions that we can add to the flow, and the current user isn't logged in, So whenever this happens, the web page is loaded and the current user isn't logged in, I want that user be redirected to my index page. So there's no way that a non-logged user, that a signed out user can edit information inside this screen. And that's how we can achieve in our 5 steps quickly building our safe restaurants without code project. That would be me finishing the building process to then go to the testing phase. That is basically you playing around and seeing what happens if I see this in a small screen, if I see it in a big screen, sharing it with friends, sharing it with people so that everyone can start like trying to break things down and see where where you need to fix up things. So I will stop right there. And I will love to hear your thoughts or any questions you have, or, well, I don't really know what would be the next steps right now.
Sure. Yeah, that was amazing. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, learned a hell of a lot. So really appreciate it, Felipe. And super clear instructions. That was probably the clearest instructions of how to use and build something in Bubble that I've heard. So thanks for that. But I'll just open it up to everyone for questions. I've got a few myself, but please just unmute yourself and fire away to Felipe if you've got any questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. It's just on the homepage where you can see like Max's Restaurant and Hello Guru Restaurant in the automatic group. Is there a way that you can get that so it doesn't automatically go on to the homepage? Like you have to sort of manually check it before it goes onto the homepage?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's actually very easy. You can do that. I'm going to do it very quickly right now. Adding a field to my data type user that is going to, let's call it approved. I believe that you're asking this because you want to pre-approve like the things that are going to be shown in there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm going to add a new field that is going to be called approved, and it's going to be a Boolean. It's going to be a yes or no field.
Yeah.
So this way, what we can do in our repeating group in here is that, remember when we were specifying the data source of this repeating group?
Yeah.
Here we told the Bubble to bring all the users. Right now, what we want to do is to bring all the users, but only the ones in which approve is yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make going to put Hello Guru's Restaurant as no, and I'm going to put Max's Restaurant as yes. And this way, if I reload, the only restaurant that should be displayed right now is Max's Restaurant. So you see, I didn't change anything of the workflow behind this. I just put like a filter on top of everything.
Yeah.
So that's very useful for these kind of things.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
Awesome. I think Kenneth had a question, so feel free to fire away, Kenneth.
Oh, heck yeah. Felipe, thank you. Like, I appreciate this entire presentation, echoing what Max said. This is probably the clearest explanation of Bubble, and I hopped on the Hello Guru probably like 3-4 months ago to try it out, and I got lost in the Bubble tutorial, but I love the way that you do it. So this isn't more so like a question about what you just did, but would you be able to port this kind of explanation or webinar over to your platform, and I guess break it down into chunks of what you did, your planning, your building, and your testing, so that we can learn more so from you or from other people?
Actually, we've been like, if I understand, you tried Hello Guru like 3 months ago, something like that. Okay, so yeah, like I think we've been iterating like maybe every 1 or 2 weeks in how we explain things, because as I said in the beginning, like we really want to tackle down which is the best way in which people can understand to build up these things. So I would encourage you to try it out again, because we've changed a lot of things 3 months from 3 months from now. We've changed a couple of things, and specifically in how we explain things and how every chunks to specific stuff. Thank you for that feedback.
No, of course. Sorry, you were breaking up on my end. Yeah, like I'm definitely motivated to try it out again, especially like after seeing you explain all of that. I guess just like my one takeaway is that like I just ended up like getting lost in the like tutorial process. Like I loved it, super motivated to do it. It's just like it felt like I had to do a lot to achieve like the level of understanding.
Absolutely.
I guess just the basic level of understanding, and I picked up a lot more from you. So I like what you're doing right here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Absolutely have that in mind to keep fixing all our content. Thank you, Kenneth.
Yeah, great feedback, Kenneth. Thanks for that. Has anyone else got any questions for Felipe?
Yeah, I've just got one, Felipe. Just echoing what the guy said, really good, really impressive. I have partly got through the Twitter video, the Twitter course, which was really good. So I'm really interested in the time frame for other platforms such as Adalo, maybe Airtable. I see you have Parabola listed as well. So what's the time frame for them being available?
We're aiming. We are aiming for Adalo to have it for end of July.
Great.
And we're also aiming for Webflow to have it by end of July. We are trying to first, like we're in a building up stage where we don't want to have like a lot of tutorials of all the tools out there, but really don't understand how is the best way to teach them. So that's why we have been doing this like kind of slow paced, because we want to really do a good job in teaching you guys how to do it. But regarding the time frames, that would be around that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to those as well. Cool. Anyone else got any questions? Otherwise, I've got a couple.
Yes,
I'm just lurking. So, just so you know, I'm an early adopter. Good. It was the first time I saw you teaching. Nice. I'm gonna watch what I bought before. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Barry.
Great stuff. And Mark, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. That's very informative. You make it look very easy. And I too am on, I think, category 8 of the Twitter build on the Hello Guru website, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. But I do struggle with the responsive side of things. So I don't know if you've got any sort of tips on best practices for building with that in mind. I know you've just clearly explained about the 100% width on those two elements there, but is there anything else that you might sort of suggest that would be a good way of working with that?
Absolutely. First thing, all the no-code tools suck in responsiveness. Like, there's no easy way to tackle this problem. You have to play around a lot with any of them. Actually, I think the best no-code tool regarding responsiveness could be Webflow, but still it's kind of clumsy and it's difficult to work on it. Regarding Bubble, it's a mess. I believe that it's the messiest of all the no-code tools that I know regarding responsiveness, but you can find a lot of workarounds. The first tip, I'm going just to go over it again, is to use always groups with kind of a margin in here, because this will let you have a nice margin in any responsive site. I'm going to do quickly something here, responsiveness, to show you how these actually work. So I'm going to have some lorem ipsum generator in here. Okay, here I'm going to add some random text. I want lorem ipsum. It doesn't matter. Whatever text, if it's there. So I'm going to add this text in here. And as you can see, this is a normal static site with just one text in here. And I'm going to show you what happens whenever we try to shrink this down to a mobile version, for example. I'm going to, using the Google Chrome inspector, I'm going to replicate how this is shown in let's say an iPhone X. So this looks like this. Well, the first thing that you can see is that there's not like a nice way to see it. There's no like even paced margins and things like that.
That's for keeping notes. No kidding. That's very annoying indeed. I think with CSS you can. You know what? Any coders here? I'm not one, but I'm trying to jump in. But with CSS you can solve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. Still, there's a lot of things that you can do without jumping straight into CSS that I would recommend using no-code tools to use the power of the no-code tools like until the end, and not jump directly into the CSS from the beginning, because I have tried it myself. I know I'm a coder, and I've tried it before, and what happens with this kind of little hacks is that you fix this with CSS, and then 1 month from now you start looking to a page that you've never seen before from your project, and you see like everything spread around, and you don't remember that you just inserted some small snippet. Exactly. So
yeah, that's good that you
so
shared
it's better.
this. Yeah,
it's better because then you're going to be working like extra hours trying to find where the things are. You know.
Yeah. Or even hand over it, huh? Someone, you might want to hand over it to someone else. Oh, poor guys. Like.
Exactly. So I'm going to share with you a really interesting blog post that is on Medium that is regarding only responsiveness in Bubble. Actually, let me Medium responsiveness Bubble, because I think that's one of the most useful how to make center elements responsive in Bubble. Yeah, it's here. I'm going to share it with you guys because it goes really deep into how to do responsiveness work correctly into Bubble, and I think that this has way more tips that I can tell you like in a couple of minutes. So I will answer your question, Mark, with sharing with you this.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. I can have a look through that, and I'm sure there's some great advice. So I appreciate that, and thanks for your time today. That's it's been valuable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. And I just to round it off, and guys, feel free if you need to go. I know we've gone over slightly, but just one question around building the database structure, and how you would best approach that. And I've never actually done it, but the sort of looking at relational databases as well. How does that work, and what's maybe the simplest example of a relational database you could give? But yeah, we would be interested in that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So how do you structure correctly a database? That's a big like, when you're doing complex, like very complex developments and creations and building very complex stuff, that can be a really painful point in your building process if you've never done it before. But however, I believe that if you maintain a couple of things in mind, it can be very useful. The first one will be to think of every table as a group of things that have some like one thing in common, like only one thing, not trying to group a lot of different things into a single table. But if I have a table that is going to be regarding users, keep it as simple as possible to keep just users in there. If you then have to relate these users to, I don't know, their payments, so do another table regarding payments, even if it's just 2 columns or 3 columns. Like having everything super chunked down to little tables is going to be way much easier later to manipulate than having, for example, all your payment methods and your users' information and your users' addresses and everything in a single table. Is going to be a mess. So the first thing will be thinking of only having like the minimum relational things possible between the data regarding creating like every single table. And then having that in mind and having that correctly done, you can then start thinking about the relations between the tables. And having everything super chunked down, it will let you relate to other tables very easily. Regarding Bubble, for example, let's just say that we're going to start saving the customers, let's say addresses, right? So one way would be to just add a field in here, like a column, where, I don't know, this user has this address, but you know that there's a lot of addresses for this user. So then it's going to become a mess if you maintain that type of structure, because then you will have this user repeated a lot of times per every different address that user has. So that's where the mindset of having everything chunked down to little groups of data is going to be very handy right now. So let's say I'm going to add the users type, the addresses type. So let's call this user addresses. Again, sorry if I repeat this a lot, but it has saved me a lot of time and is to be super self-explanatory with the texts, with the titles. So here I have the user addresses. I have, let's say, the address itself. Let's just say that it's going to be one address here. And then, so this is like just the address itself. And how do I relate it to the user? I'm going to create a new field that can be called user. And this field type is going to be of type user. This is how you can relate an address to a user in Bubble. There's an option in here that tells you this field is a list. This works when you can reuse that data per different users. So this would work here if that same if that same address can be used in different users. In this case, well, it's not like that, let's say. And that way, whenever you want to create a data inside the user addresses field, you will have to relate it to a user as well. So let's say the address here, whatever, 123 streets. And the user here, I would have to insert the ID of the user that is related to this field. So I have to run quickly here and to check, for example, this is the unique ID of the user. I'm going to copy it, going to user addresses, make a new entry to our address, whatever, 123 street, and the user ID. Whoop, I think I copied something wrong. But well, that's how you can do it inside Bubble. I don't know if that answers your question or if I wasn't that clear, Max.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's really clear. Thank you. I was just quickly on that. What's the, as it's a user's address, what was the, I think you cracked out at that point, but what was the reasoning behind having that as a separate type of data as opposed to having the address within users?
Perfect. Because you always want to, I'm going to open Excel just to make a quick explanation in here. This happens because whenever you think of a table, you want to think of a table in terms of unique elements always. You don't want to have duplicates anywhere. So we have two options. We're going to call this quickly table users, right? Is this big enough? Do you guys see it correctly? Oops.
Yeah, all good. All good.
Okay, so let's call this is the users table, right? And so option one, we have two options. We have the option where users is the only table, and then we have the option where we have users and we have addresses, right? So let's say I'm going to simplify this way too much like this. So we have the table users right now, and the table users is going to be composed of two things. I think this is too small right now. So it's going to have a user ID and it's going to have an address, right? So you always want to maintain a uniqueness in the data that you have. What do I mean here? For example, let's say the user ID, I have the user ID 123 456 789 031. I have these 4 users. And I have here the address, let's call it street 1. And I have this user, the street 2. And I have the user, the street 3. And I have the user, the street 4. What happens, for example, when the user 123 wants to have another address, like have another address entry? If this were the case where we were using just one table, then you would have to do this. Have a user ID 123 with a street number 5, right? Here you're duplicating, not duplicated, but you're not having a uniqueness in your users. This causes, like afterwards, a big trouble because then you have a very, very big user table, and that is going to be difficult to search on. What do I mean by this? Whenever we are fetching information, for example, in a repeating group in Bubble, you need to fetch information, and the smallest information you have, the quicker is going to be shown in the website, and therefore the better performance you're going to have. You can do it this way, but it's going to be a mess afterwards to search throughout all the users in this table and find the address that you want. What happens if we use the approach that should be used, finding like the uniqueness all the time? So I will still have this. I won't have the address inserted here, but I will have a kind of an addresses list, okay? And in here, in my addresses list, I'm going to have, let's see here. So I'm going to have an address ID, and let's say the description. So things become something like this. I have my description of all the street addresses. I have a random address ID in here. So let's I'm going to do some random here just for the sake of this. And like this, okay. So I have these addresses. Sorry, I don't like those things here. Okay, so I have here some random address, like some random keys. So what's going to happen here is that my user, let's start from down to up. My user 31 should have the street 4, right? The street 4 is ID 1624. So I have 1624. The 789 user ID has the address street 3. So street 3 is this. The same for 456 is street 2. But what happens when I go to user ID 123? He has two addresses, right? He has this and these addresses. So what I would do right here is to address the two streets, is the 9191 and the 2191. This is like a kind of yeah, sure. 91 and 91, and I would have the 91. Sorry, I am overcomplicating things a little bit, but it's just to show you that having a uniqueness in your user ID will allow you to have multiple addresses in the same field without having to have a duplicates entries in all your database. And that way, whenever you search for the user ID 123, so you're using, like, if you're searching for him, you search, okay, I found the user 123, tell me what are his addresses. His addresses are all of these. Different than, okay, go through all the users, and whenever you find the user 123, copy the street address and like save it somewhere and then show it back to me. I don't know if that explanation kind of works for you, or if it's understandable.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for that. That really puts it clearly. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
I just might add there. I think if one of the users had the same address as another user, obviously it can apply to different data types, but then that unique number would be able to allow them to still remain identifiable, even though they have the same address. So it sort of allows that that relationship to stay there. And also on that cell there, just so you know, that D23 there, D24, you could put a single comma at the front there, and it'll just display the string rather than double quotes there. It will do what you want it to do. You just put a D24 there. If you take out the double quotes and just put a single comma, it will. I think at the front, that single comma there. Right, no, the very front. That's it. Just a single.
What should I put? Sorry, a comma.
Just a one, not a double quote, a single quote. No, the one above. Yeah, that's it. Return that, and it'll just display the content.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just
I didn't know that. Thank you.
That's nothing to do with the database. But what you've been doing there it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure everyone will appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah, cool. I'll just wary of time, and I don't want to take up any more of Felipe's time, because you've put a big shift in. So thanks so much for that. And I'm sure we'd love to have you on again at some point to run through something else for us. But thanks so much again for your time. Thanks everyone for coming. And yeah, please just check out Hello Guru, because you can definitely tell by today's session that it's really great stuff. And yeah, as I've put in the chat, you can get the discount on their Twitter course. So yeah, thanks again, and yeah, see you guys next week. Do you want to say anything else before we end the call, Felipe?
No, that would be. I think that's it. Like I'm very glad that I could share with you a little of my knowledge, and I hope it can be valuable for you guys. I'm sharing with you my Twitter handle. If you need everything from me, you can find me in there. And well, I will be very pleased if you can check out Hello Guru, and if you have any feedback as well, I'm super welcomed for that. And well, that's it. I'm very glad to meet you guys and to be able to share with you.
Awesome. Great. I'll end it there and see you next week, hopefully. All right, cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Felipe.
thanks a lot. Cheers,
much.
Felipe.
Cheers.
Cheers, Max.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Max. Cheers. Bye.